Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Scientist. Tonight, we drift into a world of cold stillness and ancient quiet, a realm where time moves so slowly it almost feels frozen, where the air is clear, the light is soft, and the landscape holds memories older than any human story. This is the world of glaciers, enormous rivers of ice that flow at the pace of centuries, shaping mountains and valleys with movements so patient they become invisible to the passing moment. Before we begin, take a breath that reaches deep into your chest, letting your shoulders soften and your attention loosen its grip on the leftover thoughts of today. Let every lingering worry fall away like snow settling onto a quiet slope, silent and weightless. Imagine walking beneath a pale sky where the horizon stretches in muted shades of blue and silver, the ground beneath you creaking faintly with ancient cold. Glaciers lie ahead like sleeping giants, their surfaces glowing with a soft inner light, not bright, not sharp, but calm, like moonlight preserved in solid form. Each layer of ice carries whispers of distant winters. Each fissure holds echoes of winds that blew thousands of years before our time. There is no rush here, no urgency, only the profound and patient rhythm of frozen water, inching forward with the certainty of gravity and age. The stillness becomes a kind of comfort, a silence so deep, it feels like the world exhaling. Tonight, you'll be guided through the quiet truths of glaciers, not with the harsh voice of scientific analysis, but with the soft ease of curiosity drifting into relaxation. So, if you'd like, gently close your eyes now. Let your breathing settle and allow the long sleep of ancient ice to draw you into its serenity. This is the most relaxing facts about glaciers to fall asleep. Let's begin. Deep beneath the surface of each glacier, snow is slowly transformed into ice through an almost meditative process of compression. Individual snowflakes, each delicate and airy, settle atop one another through winter after winter. Their fragile crystal shapes collapse under the weight of thousands of layers, gradually merging into dense, glassy ice. This transformation can take decades or centuries, happening so slowly that it resembles the creation of memory rather than matter, a quiet consolidation of winters stored in frozen layers. The ice becomes a kind of archive, holding the breath of past atmospheres and temperatures locked within tiny bubbles, waiting in stillness for someone to learn how to read them. When a glacier moves, it does not rush or lunge forward. It flows with a patience that defies ordinary understanding. The entire mass of ice, millions of tons of it, shifts at speeds measured not in miles per hour, but in centimeters per day. This movement is more like the sigh of the earth than a motion of force. From above, you would not see the glacier move at all, yet day by day, year by year, it reshapes mountains, grinds stone into fine powder, and deepens valleys with a steady, unwavering pressure. This gentle motion reminds you that progress does not always require speed. Often, it is persistence that shapes the world. The color of glacier ice holds a softness that feels almost soothing to the eye. While fresh snow dazzles in bright whiteness, deep glacial ice glows with shades of blue ranging from pale mist to deep azure. This color occurs because thick ice absorbs the warmer tones of sunlight and reflects only the cool wavelengths back to the eye. The result is a calming presence, as if you were looking not at solid matter, but at frozen sky or condensed tranquility. To gaze upon this gentle blue is to feel something inside become lighter, as though your thoughts found a surface quiet enough to rest on. Glaciers carry embedded stones, pebbles, and entire boulders within their ice, gently transporting them across continents through silent journeys lasting thousands of years. These rocks are lifted into the ice, held within frozen layers, and slowly carried forward, polished by friction and time. When the glacier eventually melts, these stones are released far from their origin, set gently down like misplaced memories. Their presence in unfamiliar landscapes reveals the ancient pathways of ice, showing how the glacier quietly moved pieces of the world from one place to another in acts of quiet relocation. The surfaces of glaciers are etched with delicate patterns, ridges, lines, cracks, and long curves created by the slow stress of frozen movement. Some areas form subtle ripples, others hidden crevasses, others polished expanses that shine beneath the sun. These patterns are not random. They are the glacier's subtle language, written in lines of tension and release, pressure and glide. If ice could talk, these markings would be its script, a frozen record of motion and weight. When sunlight touches a glacier at certain angles, tiny crystals embedded in the ice catch the light like faint sparks. The glacier does not dazzle or flash. Instead, it glimmers softly, as if breathing out a slow radiance. This shimmering quality is calming light, softened by layers of frozen time. Standing near a glacier at sunset, you would see the ice blush in pale gold and blue-gray tones, turning the landscape into a quiet, watercolor scene. Glaciers influence the climate, not through sudden changes, but through gentle exchanges of cold and warmth that moderate temperature across regions. They reflect sunlight back into space, helping maintain coolness in the atmosphere. Their slow melting releases fresh water that feeds rivers and ecosystems with quiet consistency. Their presence is like a cooling hand on the pulse of the planet, subtle, steady, and essential. Without glaciers, Earth's climate would tilt into faster rhythms. With them, the pace remains moderated, measured, and balanced. The sounds of a glacier are some of the quietest on Earth, and yet, when the ice does speak, it does so with deep, resonant notes. The cracking of shifting ice can echo like a distant, low drum, muted by snow and distance. The dripping of meltwater forms soft rhythms that echo within hidden, hollow chambers. Occasionally, a piece of ice will fracture and fall, sending a muffled rumble across the frozen ground. These sounds are never abrupt or alarming. They feel more like the subtle stretching of an ancient body. The air around glaciers carries a clarity that feels almost alive. It is crisp, pure, and cold, sharpened by the passage of wind over ice. Breathing in that air feels like inhaling a kind of cleanliness, a freshness untouched by pollutants or noise. Inhaling this glacial breath, even in imagination, invites the lungs to expand a little deeper, the chest to loosen, the mind to quiet. Perhaps the most calming aspect of glaciers is their mastery of time. They do not concern themselves with seasons or human schedules. Their motion is bound to geologic rhythms, longer, older, deeper than human life. In their presence, one feels the smallness of personal urgency and the largeness of natural patience. Glaciers remind us that the world's deepest changes occur slowly, and that stillness, persistence, and quiet duration are forces just as powerful as speed or intensity. Deep beneath the surface of each glacier, snow is slowly transformed into ice through an almost meditative process of compression. Individual snowflakes, each delicate and airy, settle atop one another through winter after winter. Their fragile crystal shapes collapse under the weight of thousands of layers, gradually merging into dense, glassy ice. This transformation can take decades or centuries, happening so slowly that it resembles the creation of memory rather than matter, a quiet consolidation of winters stored in frozen layers. The ice becomes a kind of archive, holding the breath of past atmospheres and temperatures locked within tiny bubbles, waiting in stillness for someone to learn how to read them. When a glacier moves, it does not rush or lunge forward. It flows with a patience that defies ordinary understanding. The entire mass of ice, millions of tons of it, shifts at speeds measured not in miles per hour, but in centimeters per day. This movement is more like the sigh of the earth than a motion of force. From above, you would not see the glacier move at all yet, day by day, year by year. It reshapes mountains, grinds stone into fine powder, and deepens valleys with a steady, unwavering pressure. This gentle motion reminds you that progress does not always require speed. Often, it is persistence that shapes the world. The color of glacier ice holds a softness that feels almost soothing to the eye. While fresh snow dazzles in bright whiteness, deep glacial ice glows with shades of blue ranging from pale mist to deep azure. This color occurs because thick ice absorbs the warmer tones of sunlight and reflects only the cool wavelengths back to the eye. The result is a calming presence, as if you were looking not at solid matter, but at frozen sky or condensed tranquility. To gaze upon this gentle blue is to feel something inside become lighter, as though your thoughts found a surface quiet enough to rest on. Glaciers carry embedded stones, pebbles, and entire boulders within their ice, gently transporting them across continents through silent journeys lasting thousands of years. These rocks are lifted into the ice, held within frozen layers, and slowly carried forward, polished by friction and time. When the glacier eventually melts, these stones are released far from their origin, set gently down like misplaced memories. Their presence in unfamiliar landscapes reveals the ancient pathways of ice, showing how the glacier quietly moved pieces of the world from one place to another in acts of quiet relocation. The surfaces of glaciers are etched with delicate patterns, ridges, lines, cracks, and long curves created by the slow stress of frozen movement. Some areas form subtle ripples, others hidden crevasses, others polished expanses that shine beneath the sun. These patterns are not random. They are the glacier's subtle language, written in lines of tension and release, pressure and glide. If ice could talk, these markings would be its script, a frozen record of motion and weight. When sunlight touches a glacier at certain angles, tiny crystals embedded in the ice catch the light like faint sparks. The glacier does not dazzle or flash. Instead, it glimmers softly, as if breathing out a slow radiance. This shimmering quality is calm in light, softened by layers of frozen time. Standing near a glacier at sunset, you would see the ice blush in pale gold and blue-gray tones, turning the landscape into a quiet watercolor scene. Glaciers influence the climate not through sudden changes, but through gentle exchanges of cold and warmth that moderate temperature across regions. They reflect sunlight back into space, helping maintain coolness in the atmosphere. Their slow melting releases fresh water that feeds rivers and ecosystems with quiet consistency. Their presence is like a cooling hand on the pulse of the planet, subtle, steady, and essential. Without glaciers, Earth's climate would tilt into faster rhythms. With them, the pace remains moderated, measured, and balanced. Sounds of a glacier are some of the quietest on Earth. And yet, when the ice does speak, it does so with deep, resonant notes. The cracking of shifting ice can echo like a distant low drum, muted by snow and distance. The dripping of meltwater forms soft rhythms that echo within hidden hollow chambers. Occasionally, a piece of ice will fracture and fall, sending a muffled rumble across the frozen ground. These sounds are never abrupt or alarming. They feel more like the subtle stretching of an ancient body. The air around glaciers carries a clarity that feels almost alive. It is crisp, pure, and cold, sharpened by the passage of wind over ice. Breathing in that air feels like inhaling a kind of cleanliness, a freshness untouched by pollutants or noise. Inhaling this glacial breath, even in imagination, invites the lungs to expand a little deeper, the chest to loosen, the mind to quiet. Perhaps the most calming aspect of glaciers is their mastery of time. They do not concern themselves with seasons or human schedules. Their motion is bound to geologic rhythms, longer, older, deeper than human life. In their presence, one feels the smallness of personal urgency and the largeness of natural patience. Glaciers remind us that the world's deepest changes occur slowly, and that stillness, persistence, and quiet duration are forces just as powerful as speed or intensity. Within the frozen mass of a glacier, pressure increases with depth, compressing the lowest layers into ice so dense it becomes almost crystal clear. This deep ice can reveal layers of trapped air, suspended particles, and faint striations, all smoothed into a glass-like clarity. When light penetrates this dense interior, it travels through the ice with a soft diffusion, giving the glacier an inner glow that feels alive, as though illumination were rising from within rather than shining onto it. Standing near such a wall of transparent ice would feel almost sacred, like gazing into time itself, calm and unmoving. In the cold grip of midnight within polar regions, glaciers under the moon carry a mysterious glow. Moonlight slips across their surfaces, giving the ice a silvery radiance that seems to hover rather than touch. The world becomes reduced to two tones, the pale gleam of ice and the quiet darkness of sky. The air feels slow. Sound travels farther. And in that lunar silence, time feels paused, suspended in a quiet that holds the earth in its frozen embrace. It is night in its most peaceful form, not absence of light, but presence of gentle stillness. As glaciers slowly advance, they sculpt the earth beneath them, with a pressure so consistent that solid rock becomes polished. Entire mountain faces can be smoothed into curved, glossy stone, as though gently sanded by the patience of centuries. These polished surfaces, called glacial pavements, catch the light with a quiet sheen, bearing the signature of ice long vanished. This silent sculpting reminds us that nature shapes the world through enduring touch, not violent force through subtle persistence rather than sudden chaos. The edges of glaciers often form delicate meltwater ponds, where bits of floating ice drift slowly on cold, silent pools. These calm waters reflect fragments of sky and ice, creating surreal, miniature landscapes in motion. The floating pieces move with unhurried grace, nudged by invisible currents, occasionally tapping softly against one another. Watching this tranquil drift invites the mind to settle into the same rhythm, a slow, thoughtful drifting, where thought itself becomes buoyant and light. Some glaciers hold inside them pockets of air that have remained trapped for thousands of years, tiny bubbles that still carry the breath of ancient atmospheres. These bubbles glimmer inside the ice like frozen pearls scattered through blue depths. If released, they would whisper out air, last breathed by the earth in ages long before human civilization. This idea that glaciers hold within them remnants of ancient winds brings a sense of quiet continuity between past and present, like the planet carrying its own memories in frozen whispers. Snow that falls onto glaciers sometimes takes on a gentle, uniform texture called firn, where individual snowflakes have begun to soften into rounded granules. This transition stage is like the halfway point between snow and ice, forming a soft, cushiony layer that insulates the glacier beneath. Walking over firn would feel like stepping across a quiet blanket, solid yet forgiving, whispering beneath your feet with muted crunches. It is snow, learning how to become ice, slowly maturing into stillness. Glaciers that descend from high mountain valleys often leave behind long, U-shaped valleys when they melt away. These valleys are different from the V-shaped forms carved by rivers instead. They carry a broad, gentle curve from slope to slope, as though shaped by a giant hand smoothing the earth. These landscapes are among the calmest to gaze upon, full of open space and gentle geometry. They are places where the eye can rest and wander without interruption. In Antarctica and Greenland, there are glaciers so large that they can only be fully appreciated from space, sprawling rivers of ice that appear to barely move, yet are always progressing in their quiet journey toward the sea. Satellites capture their motion in time-lapse sequences, revealing elegant, flowing patterns that are too slow for human perception. Watching these accelerated images feels like watching a deep breath, a slow inhale and exhale that spans centuries. The glacier becomes not a frozen mass, but a living organism with its own ancient pace. The weight of thick glacial ice can press the crust of the earth downward, slightly indenting the surface beneath. When the glacier eventually melts, the land slowly rises again, not instantly, but over centuries, returning to its original position with the same slow dignity. This phenomenon is called isostatic rebound, and it shows how Earth itself responds to the presence and absence of ice with deep, measured movements. The land behaves like a slow memory, remembering where it once stood, then gradually rising back into place. And beneath the great sheets of ice lie entire landscapes hidden from human view. Mountains, valleys, lakes, and plains sealed beneath glaciers for thousands of years. These hidden terrains exist in perfect stillness, untouched by wind or sunlight. It is a world beneath a world, a silent continent beneath a frozen one. Knowing such places exist, quiet, unseen, and patient, brings a deep sense of mystery and serenity. It reminds us that much of the planet breathes and waits in silence, never demanding attention. High in the mountains, where glaciers are born, snowfall arrives in long, quiet layers that gradually build into thick blankets of white. Each winter lays down a fresh sheet of softness, and each spring compresses it further under the weight of new snow. Over time, the seasons become stacked upon one another, like delicate pages in a frozen book. The top layers remain soft and airy, but deeper down, the snow becomes older, heavier, quieter. This layered structure gives glaciers their unique depth, a thickness of accumulated winters, resting in silence, a record of time marked not by human calendars, but by the patient drift of snow through years of stillness. At the front of some glaciers, where ice meets open air, calving events send small fragments of ice, some as tiny as pebbles, some as large as buildings, into the water. The ice drifts outward, slowly becoming polished by waves and wind, transforming over time into smooth floating sculptures. When these icebergs eventually melt, they do so with graceful dissolution, not breaking apart violently, but fading gently into water, molecule by molecule. The transition from solid to liquid carries a quiet satisfaction, like a long-held tension finally releasing. It is disappearance without drama, a calm return to fluidity. Overhead, clouds often gather above glaciers in soft, luminous clusters. The cold surface of the ice cools the air that touches it, drawing moisture downward and forming fog or mist that settles like breath resting on a mirror. This creates a world where sky and ice merge, a horizon blurred, edges softened. In such conditions, distances collapse. What is near and what is far seem to blend into the same pale atmosphere. It is as though the glacier wraps itself in a shawl of cloud, becoming a landscape of both earth and sky. Some glaciers possess tonal colors beyond blue pale greens, milky whites, and even faint shades of violet colors, influenced by minerals, air bubbles, and the thickness of frozen layers. These gentle variations transform the glacier into a canvas of pastel tones. The hues change subtly as the sun moves, shifting with light rather than with motion. Standing in the presence of such varied ice feels like watching a sky captured beneath the surface, the calmness of dawn or dusk trapped in frozen form. Beneath parts of Antarctica lie subglacial lakes, entire bodies of water hidden under kilometers of ice, existing in isolated stillness for hundreds of thousands of years. These lakes are shielded from surface wind, sunlight, and seasonal change. Their waters remain liquid not because of warmth from above, but from geothermal heat rising gently from the Earth's interior. These secret lakes hold microbial life that is adapted to darkness and quiet extremity. To imagine these places, silent worlds beneath frozen continents, is to imagine the planet's secret dreams, held in icy sleep. Glaciers also interact with light in a phenomenon called internal scattering. When sunlight enters deep ice, it diffuses softly into every direction, illuminating the glacier from within. This creates glowing caverns of diffuse light, blue and tranquil, as if the glacier were lit by its own slow heartbeat. Stepping inside such a cavern would feel like entering an underwater cathedral, carved from frozen light, where illumination has weight and silence has color. Wind that blows across a glacier travels differently than across warmer ground. The cold air hugs the surface, flowing in slow, even currents that create a hush distinct from wind in forests or deserts. This katabatic wind moves steadily downward, carrying the glacier's chill across the valley. To stand in that wind is to feel a gentle river of cold, steady, measured, and strangely comforting, an invisible drift that carries the calm of the ice outward into the world. Where glaciers grind against bedrock, they produce fine sediments known as glacial flour, tiny particles of rock crushed so finely that they remain suspended in meltwater. When this sediment flows into lakes, it gives them a milky turquoise color that appears almost unreal. These pale waters look like liquid gemstone, soft, opaque, pastel. The effect is soothing to look upon a landscape washed in pale watercolor, where the colors settle gently into the mind and calm the inner vision. In winter, when snowfall covers a glacier with fresh powder, the soundscape becomes muted and softened. Footsteps disappear. Voices become muffled. Even the cracking of ice seems distant and wrapped in cotton. Snow absorbs sharp sounds, transforming them into diffused whispers. In this hushed world, the glacier seems to exist inside its own quiet sphere, isolated from noise and motion. It is a rare silence, not empty, but full of calm. And perhaps one of the most serene truths about glaciers is that they exist beyond urgency. They do not hurry to advance, nor resist retreat. They simply respond to climate, to snowfall, to warmth and cold. Their changes are not choices. They are conversations between air, water, and time. To contemplate a glacier is to contemplate calm inevitability, the way nature shifts, not through rush or impatience, but through enduring rhythm. In that slow cadence, you may find a reflection of your own breath settling, your thoughts easing, your consciousness drifting into rest. Far above the surface of a glacier, thin layers of hoarfrost can grow in exquisite crystalline formations, forming shapes that resemble feathers, ferns, and delicate branching trees. These ice structures emerge when water vapor settles on cold surfaces and freezes instantly, growing outward with fragile intricacy. Each tiny crystal mirrors the geometry of the others, creating patterns so subtle and symmetrical that they look almost intentional. To observe hoarfrost closely is to witness nature's softest artistry, beautiful, fleeting, and formed in utter silence. The core of a glacier moves differently than its edges. The center flows forward with a slightly faster, smoother motion, while the outer edges drag slowly against valley walls. This creates a gentle, internal gradient of motion, the glacier's own slow heartbeat. It is a quiet choreography of ice, where the interior body drifts steadily and the edges cling a little longer to the stone. This dynamic creates the graceful curving shapes of glacial tongues, as if the glacier were slowly reaching out with a soft, cold hand. In the thin, icy air above glaciers, sound behaves differently. Echoes travel farther and linger longer, as if the cold atmosphere holds on to sound rather than letting it fade. A single voice or footstep can feel strangely amplified, floating across the frozen space. Yet it never shatters the calm. Instead, it becomes part of the hush. Listening in that environment, one becomes acutely aware of how quiet the world can be, how the glacier shapes not only the land, but the sound of existence around it. Glaciers serve as reservoirs of water, storing it in frozen form through cold seasons and releasing it slowly through warmer months. This gentle release keeps rivers flowing long after snow is melted from mountains, feeding life far downstream. Villages, forests, wildlife all receive their quiet nourishment from the slow melt of ancient ice. It is a kindness that glaciers bestow simply by being a sustained giving that continues without awareness or recognition. Some glaciers hold layers of dust and volcanic ash from distant eruptions, settled onto their surfaces from winds that carried particles across continents. These layers form thin, dark lines that become frozen inside the ice, marking moments in history like quiet bookmarks. These streaks of darkness contrast with the surrounding purity of white and blue, reminding us that even in frozen landscapes, traces of distant events are preserved gently within. The glacier does not reject these particles. It holds them with soft acceptance. When cold air flows from a glacier over nearby lakes or valleys, it creates temperature gradients that can give rise to mesmerizing atmospheric effects. Light refracts differently in these zones, making distant mountains shimmer or giving the horizon an ethereal wavering. These mirage-like distortions feel like glimpses into an almost dream-like world, where solid land seems to waver like soft fabric in the wind. In these moments, the line between reality and perception softens beautifully. Glaciers sometimes form thin, translucent ceilings of ice over pockets of air, creating hidden chambers beneath the surface. Inside these chambers, meltwater resonates faintly against icy walls, creating soft, musical drips that echo through the cold interiors. These secret rooms of ice hold a quiet, unlike any found in forests or deserts, a soft, filtered silence that feels like stepping into the hollow of a snowflake, surrounded by crystalline stillness. During periods of intense cold, a glacier's surface becomes brittle, and fracture lines spread outward like quiet lightning frozen in place. These crevasses are deep and still, their interiors glowing a deeper blue where sunlight cannot reach. Looking down into one feels like peering into another dimension of cold, a vertical tunnel into ice's ancient memory. Yet despite their formidable presence, they form with elegance, a natural opening in response to gentle strain. When snowstorms swirl around glaciers, the entire world reduces to white motion and hushed wind. Snowflakes land softly upon ice, adding tiny increments of mass that become part of the glacier's future. In these storms, sky and earth seem indistinguishable. The world becomes a cloud of cold, where sound fades and movement slows. To be in such a storm is to feel wrapped in the planet's coldest lullaby. And at last, perhaps the most peaceful truth of glaciers is that they are places where silence becomes presence. Not merely the absence of noise, but a type of quiet that exists as a tangible companion. The silence of a glacier is thick and embracing, a quiet that invites contemplation, a quiet that allows thoughts to stretch out slowly and dissolve. In that silence, one can almost feel the glacier listening not with ears, but with the weight of timelessness. Within the upper layers of glacial snow, tiny air spaces form labyrinths of quiet, absorbing sound and softening the crunch beneath footsteps. Walking on this snow produces a muted, cushion-like rhythm that feels almost ceremonial, each step wrapped in softness. The sensation is unlike walking on soil or stone. It is as though the earth beneath you has become gentle, supporting your weight with a forgiving embrace rather than resistance. This hushed footfall turns movement itself into a calming process, echoing the glacier's own slow and measured motion through time. On sunny days, meltwater pools on surface of a glacier can form shallow, turquoise basins, their clarity revealing intricate patterns carved into the ice below. The water is so pure that it captures the color of the sky and the depth of the ice simultaneously, glowing with soft radiance. These basins change shape slowly as the day progresses, expanding with warmth, narrowing with returning cold. Observing them is like listening to the glacier breathe a rise and fall of liquid that responds calmly to sunlight. The cold that emanates from glaciers carries a steadiness unlike artificial chill. It is the cold of deep Siberian, clean, ancient, simple. This low, unwavering temperature is felt not as a jolt, but as a gradual settling over the skin, like a calm reminder of the planet's slow rhythms. It arrives without aggression, without bitterness. It simply exists as part of the glacier's quiet presence, filling the air with clarity. Glaciers shape wind patterns by directing cold air downward along their surfaces. These winds travel in long, silent flows that can extend for many miles, slipping through valleys and across tundra with ghost-like subtlety. There is no roar or gust, only the sensation of something passing by, cool and invisible. They are like rivers of air, continuous and silent, carrying with them the memory of frozen surface where they began their descent. When sunlight filters through blowing snow near a glacier, tiny ice crystals can create halos, sundogs, and iridescent arcs that encircle the sun in gentle color. These are not brilliant rainbows. They are calmer, paler expressions of light, appearing in whispering hues of cream, pearl, and faint rose. The sky seems decorated with subtle halos that appear and fade quietly, offering the world a delicate, atmospheric artwork crafted from cold and refracted light. In certain regions, glaciers crackle softly during temperature changes, emitting faint, crisp sounds, like the quiet shifting of old wood in a winter cabin. These tiny noises happen as the ice expands or contracts, creating minute adjustments in its structure. Listening to this subtle crackling reveals the glacier as something almost alive, not breathing, but stretching and settling in its frozen skin. With each sound, you sense the glacier's slow awareness of its own weight and temperature. When winter skies darken and stars appear above polar glaciers, the ice reflects starlight in a way that seems to bring the heavens closer to Earth. Constellations shimmer on the glacier's surface as though scattered across a frozen mirror. The stars become elongated, blurred slightly as they reflect in microscopic textures of ice, giving them the appearance of glowing dust rather than distant suns. The glacier becomes a bridge between sky and ground, a quiet stage where starlight rests. Some species of cold-adapted algae grow on glacier surfaces, tinting patches of ice with faint reddish or golden tones. Though microscopic, these tiny organisms create blushes of color that drift across the ice with humidity and meltwater. Their presence is subtle but beautiful, a reminder that even in the iciest landscapes, life finds delicate ways to appear. These colors seem like soft strokes of paint on a white canvas, hinting at warmth within cold. Snow dunes sometimes form on broad, flat expanses of glacier, shaped by wind into gentle ridges that resemble ocean waves frozen in mid-motion. These snow waves ripple across the surface in soft repetition, rhythmic and calming. The curves are smooth, almost symmetrical, as though sculpted by an artist rather than air. To walk among them is to move through a frozen seascape, where motion has been paused, leaving only the restful shapes of wind's handiwork. And finally, in the quiet presence of a glacier, time loses its usual meaning. Minutes feel unimportant, hours drift without notice, and even days seem to merge into a slow, seamless passage. The glacier's age, measured in centuries and millennia, overshadows human urgency and compresses worry into something small and temporary. Resting in the presence of ancient ice, one feels aligned with deeper rhythms of Earth, longer, calmer, and infinitely patient. And in that alignment, the mind softens, breath deepens, and sleep becomes effortless. High on the upper plains of a glacier, sunlight sometimes refracts through layers of snow in such a way that the surface appears to glow from below, as if lit by a quiet luminescence. In these moments, the ice does not simply reflect the light above it, distributes it inward, downward, and outward, transforming the glacier into a soft lantern of frozen clarity. This glow is not bright or dazzling, but gentle and enveloping, like walking across a floor made of soft sky. It lends the landscape a sacred quality, as if you were wandering across the ceiling of a silent, icy cathedral. Deep inside a glacier, layers of compressed snow and ancient ice trap traces of long-ago seasons, capturing tiny grains of pollen, minute particles of sea salt, and microscopic sediments carried by winds across the world. These specks become sealed within the ice, preserved in perfect memory. Thousands of years later, when cores of ice are extracted and examined, scientists discover quiet messages from distant eras, a whisper of the forests that once flourished, the ocean storms that once traveled, and the breath of air that moved through forgotten climates. The glacier stands as a witness of time, a frozen memoir of Earth's quiet evolution. At the edges of glaciers, where meltwater drips steadily throughout the day, icicles form like glassy teeth along overhangs and ridges. These slender spikes grow slowly, one droplet at a time, elongating with unhurried precision. In the cold glow of morning sunlight, they glitter softly, each icicle holding its own fragile beauty. Sometimes a small drop of water forms at the tip and falls, leaving behind a tiny sound, like a faint heartbeat echoing through the frozen air. It is a reminder that even within stillness, some parts of nature keep moving in graceful continuity. Above vast ice sheets, auroras can sometimes dance across polar skies, painting sweeping ribbons of color that ripple in silence above the frozen expanse below. This meeting of dancing lights and unmoving ice creates a union of opposites: motion above stillness, fire above frost. The aurora swirls with fluid energy, while the glacier lies calm and unmoving, perfectly receptive to the sky's display. To witness this union would be to see Earth speaking in light, its magnetic breath weaving color into night, while the ice listens with patient attention. Glacial valleys often hold mists that drift over the ground in the early morning, hovering in a thin, silvery layer that blurs the line between land and air. This mist pools in gentle hollows, flowing like liquid air through ancient spaces carved by ice. Standing within it feels like being inside a dream where the world is softened, where boundaries dissolve. The horizon fades, contours blend, and time itself seems to suspend, leaving only quiet awareness and calm inhalation. Sometimes, beneath a glacier, the pressure of ice and earth creates tiny pockets of warmth, where temperatures rise just enough to keep small regions unfrozen. These pockets form hidden cavities where meltwater gathers in secret pools, invisible to the surface world. Life may exist in these secluded places, microbes that thrive in darkness, adapted to conditions unknown elsewhere. Such hidden ecosystems feel like secret chambers of the planet, protected, untouched, and quietly alive, continuing in silence where no human eye has ever looked. Across hundreds of miles of frozen terrain, glaciers sometimes connect with each other, merging into broader expanses of ice that move in unified motion. These vast sheets behave like a single entity, pulsing with ancient rhythms of freeze and thaw. The joining of glaciers is a quiet merging, not abrupt or forceful, but gradual and synchronized. They become part of a collective body of ice, sharing weight, movement, and purpose in a harmony guided by nature's long logic. When seasonal warmth melts only the upper layers of snow on a glacier, the resulting water flows into surface grooves and channels, forming small streams that crisscross the ice. These streams carve their own miniature canyons, weaving blue paths through white expanses, creating delicate networks of water above a frozen heart. Listening to them, you hear a light trickling, a fragile murmur that feels like the glacier, speaking softly to the sun. Eventually, these streams disappear into crevasses, slipping into darkness with gentle purpose. Glaciers sometimes carve cirques, bowl-shaped hollows in mountainsides, where snow collects and compacts into new ice. These amphitheaters of stone cradle the first breath of glacier formation, hosting the earliest stages of frozen growth. They are cradles of ice, places where glaciers are quietly born. Snow gathers in softness, layers deepen over time, and a new river of frozen movement begins to form. This subtle beginning, unseen by most eyes, reminds us that even the grandest forces begin in quiet accumulation. And finally, there is the presence of the glacier itself, not as scenery, not as geology, but as a feeling. Standing before a glacier, one feels a deep stillness that humbles thought and speech. The world becomes simplified, cold, quiet, slow. Breath becomes deeper, the mind becomes wider. In that presence, you feel the weight of ages and the softness of time. The glacier does not speak in words, but it speaks in silence, and that silence carries wisdom. High in the polar regions, the vast expanse of glacial ice stretches toward the horizon in a nearly unbroken sheet of white. The sheer scale of it is calming, the way distance softens shapes, erases edges, and gives everything a uniform stillness. In such spaces, perspective expands, and the mind begins to quiet itself naturally. There are no sharp interruptions to the view, only tranquil continuity. This vastness allows thoughts to drift into open space, releasing tension the way wind disperses snow across a plain. For animals that live near glaciers, seals, Arctic foxes, penguins, adaptation is not frantic, but calm and purposeful. Each movement is economical, each pause deliberate, each breath steady. Penguins stand quietly on floating ice, their bodies still against the silent expanse. Seals rest on pure white platforms, breathing slow, foggy exhales. This gentle coexistence with cold creates an atmosphere of shared quiet, as if the creatures have learned from the glacier itself how to live in calm harmony. When rain falls onto a glacier, instead of soaking into soil or splashing on rock, it spreads across smooth ice in thin sheets, gliding along gentle slopes until it pools in shallow depressions. These sheets of water slide across the glacier with a graceful motion, reflecting clouds and blurred ribbons. The movement is soft and fluid, like a veil of silver sliding across glass. This gentle water flow creates a different kind of hydrology, quiet, uninterrupted, serene. During rare warm spells, when ice melts a little faster, faint streams of water can be heard beneath the glacier's surface, creating melodies of dripping and trickling hidden beneath the frozen crust. These sounds are subtle and distant, like echoes from beneath the floor of the world. They remind you that even in deep cold, motion continues quiet, controlled, almost like the glacier singing softly to itself in subterranean rhythms. Some glaciers develop astonishingly smooth, polished undersides, gliding over rock like a skating blade of ice. This lubricated motion is aided by a thin film of meltwater below the ice, allowing the glacier to slide rather than tear. The result is a gliding movement, so silent and steady, it feels as though the glacier is floating. Nature here moves with elegant efficiency, unchanged by hurry, guided by physics and patience alone. Occasionally, chunks of ancient ice become buried and then emerge again centuries later on glacier surfaces, pale relics of a colder time resurfacing after long slumber. These pieces carry within them the compacted signature of long-gone winters, their crystals denser and older than their surroundings. To see them is to glimpse the deep past resurfacing the glacier, quietly returning its own memories to the light. Atmospheric clarity. Near glaciers can create incredibly sharp visibility, allowing distant mountains or ridgelines to appear almost close enough to touch. The absence of dust and moisture gives the air a precision that feels almost cleansing to the mind. Looking across such pure air clears visual noise, as if the world were focusing itself for you, removing blur and distraction, offering clarity in both distance and thought. In some regions, glaciers have a faint, almost melodic hum, a low-frequency vibration too deep for human ears to hear directly, but detected by instruments. This hum comes from ice, shifting and grinding in slow motion. Though inaudible to us, knowing it exists gives the glacier an organic quality, like a creature breathing in frequencies below awareness. It is a reminder that even silent landscapes have voices beyond hearing. When wind sweeps unobstructed across glacial terrain, snow can lift and drift in sheets of white silk, moving in slow currents just above the surface. These snow veils swirl with gentle choreography, barely touching the ice beneath. Watching them is like observing the atmosphere, dream air, tracing patterns across the frozen ground with soft intention. It is motion without urgency, movement without noise. And finally, a glacier under cloudy sky becomes a landscape of monochrome tranquility, shades of soft gray blending into muted white, with no sharp colors to stimulate or distract the eye. In such moments, the world feels quiet, not only in sound, but in sight. Your vision settles, your mind rests, and every sense begins to quiet itself. The glacier becomes a physical lullaby, a place where every stimulus is softened, every thought becomes gentle, and sleep feels as natural as snowfall settling on ice. There are moments when sunlight passing through thin glacier ice creates fine prisms that scatter light into gentle spectral colors, faintly separating whites into nearly invisible rainbows. These colors are soft, pale blues, tender greens, hints of rose glimmering only briefly before dissolving back into white. They are not bright enough to excite the eyes, only calm enough to invite softness. Witnessing these quiet spectrums feels like watching whispered light, as if the glacier has found a way to refract tranquility itself. Massive glaciers exert enormous pressure on the ground beneath them, so much that they gently bend the Earth's crust over time. Yet this force is not perceived as violence or stress. Rather, it is a slow, even distribution of weight across rock, like a heavy blanket settling gradually over a sleeping form. The land reshapes itself in response with patient acceptance. This deep interaction between ice and earth happens at a speed far beyond human perception, reminding us that nature often shapes itself through tender persistence rather than aggression. When glacial ice melts and refreezes repeatedly, it can create glassy, translucent layers that look almost like frozen windows buried inside thicker, opaque ice. Looking through them, one might glimpse deeper pockets of blue or patterns etched by ancient air bubbles. These natural windows feel like portals offering glimpses into the glacier's hidden interior, into the stillness beneath the surface. Gazing into such clarity is like looking through time, every layer a quiet filtration of years. At certain times of year, long shadows cast by low-angle sunlight stretch across glacier surfaces, forming elongated stripes of pale and dark that move slowly as the day unfolds. This shifting pattern transforms the glacier into a living tapestry of light and shade. The shadows are soft, never cutting sharply, but blending gradually as though painted with a wide, gentle brush. Observing these patterns, one senses time moving not hour by hour, but shadow by shadow in a slow visual rhythm. Tiny flecks of ancient air, trapped inside bubbles within the ice, are remnants of atmospheres long vanished. These bubbles contain air breathed by forests that no longer exist, by oceans that had different temperatures, by past worlds. To release these bubbles, even hypothetically, would be to let ancient winds escape into the present. The glacier holds these pockets of memory with quiet reverence, preserving the feeling of forgotten climates inside small spheres of silence. Near glacier fronts, small ponds called kettle lakes can form when blocks of ice break off and melt in isolated depressions. These lakes have glass-like surfaces that reflect the glacier above them, creating a duplicate world upside down in the water. The mirrored ice looks softer, more fluid, as though the glacier has melted into an image of itself. Looking at such reflections, one feels suspended between two frozen realities, the solid above and the liquid below, both equally calm. Alongside some glaciers, ancient stones called erratics rest at odd angles, massive boulders carried from distant places by the ice long ago, left gently upon the landscape when the glacier receded. These stones look like quiet guests, visitors from other regions left behind in deep tranquility. They remain exactly where the glacier released them, holding their position across centuries like silent markers of ice's wandering past. Sometimes, snow resting atop a glacier can form a crust of crystalline frost that sparkles under the sun with thousands of fine points of reflected light. But unlike glitter or glare, this sparkle feels soft, subdued, like the twinkling of distant stars. The effect is calming rather than stimulating. Each glint appears and disappears in response to tiny changes in angle and perspective, creating a shifting constellation of light beneath your feet. When deep crevasses open in glacier surfaces, they reveal vertical walls of layered ice bands of whiteness, alternating with deeper blues, each stratum marking seasons of snow. These openings are not wounds, but archives, vertical histories of winter and sunlight, compressed into frozen stratigraphy. Looking into them is like reading chapters of a silent book, a frozen narrative of atmosphere and snowfall. They remind us that glaciers are not simply objects, they are accumulations of time. And perhaps most calming of all is the realization that glaciers are not static, frozen monuments. They are flowing entities. They move slowly, breathe subtly, melt and reform, grow and diminish in long rhythms. Their motion is nearly imperceptible, a shift measured not by moments, but by eras. This living slowness offers comfort, a reminder that change does not always require speed. Sometimes the most enduring transformations happen with quiet patience. There are moments when sunlight passing through thin glacier ice creates fine prisms that scatter light into gentle spectral colors, faintly separating whites into nearly invisible rainbows. These colors are soft, pale blues, tender greens, hints of rose glimmering only briefly before dissolving back into white. They are not bright enough to excite the eyes, only calm enough to invite softness. Witnessing these quiet spectrums feels like watching whispered light, as if the glacier has found a way to refract tranquility itself. Massive glaciers exert enormous pressure on the ground beneath them, so much that they gently bend the Earth's crust over time. Yet this force is not perceived as violence or stress. Rather, it is a slow, even distribution of weight across rock, like a heavy blanket settling gradually over a sleeping form. The land reshapes itself in response with patient acceptance. This deep interaction between ice and earth happens at a speed far beyond human perception, reminding us that nature often shapes itself through tender persistence rather than aggression. When glacial ice melts and refreezes repeatedly, it can create glassy, translucent layers that look almost like frozen windows buried inside thicker, opaque ice. Looking through them, one might glimpse deeper pockets of blue or patterns etched by ancient air bubbles. These natural windows feel like portals, offering glimpses into the glacier's hidden interior, into the stillness beneath the surface. Gazing into such clarity is like looking through time, every layer, a quiet filtration of years. At certain times of year, long shadows, cast by low-angle sunlight, stretch across glacier surfaces, forming elongated stripes of pale and dark that move slowly as the day unfolds. This shifting pattern transforms the glacier into a living tapestry of light and shade. The shadows are soft, never cutting sharply, but blending gradually as though painted with a wide, gentle brush. Observing these patterns one senses time moving not hour by hour, but shadow by shadow, in a slow visual rhythm. Tiny flecks of ancient air, trapped inside bubbles within the ice, are remnants of atmospheres long vanished. These bubbles contain air breathed by forests that no longer exist, by oceans that had different temperatures, by past worlds. To release these bubbles, even hypothetically, would be to let ancient winds escape into the present. The glacier holds these pockets of memory with quiet reverence, preserving the feeling of forgotten climates inside small spheres of silence. Near glacier fronts, small ponds called kettle lakes can form when blocks of ice break off and melt in isolated depressions. These lakes have glass-like surfaces that reflect the glacier above them, creating a duplicate world upside down in the water. The mirrored ice looks softer, more fluid, as though the glacier has melted into an image of itself. Looking at such reflections, one feels suspended between two frozen realities, the solid above and the liquid below, both equally calm. Alongside some glaciers, ancient stones called erratics rest at odd angles. Massive boulders carried from distant places by the ice long ago, left gently upon the landscape when the glacier receded. These stones look like quiet guests, visitors from other regions left behind in deep tranquility. They remain exactly where the glacier released them, holding their position across centuries, like silent markers of ice's wandering past. Sometimes, snow resting atop a glacier can form a crust of crystalline frost that sparkles under the sun, with thousands of fine points of reflected light. But unlike glitter or glare, this sparkle feels soft, subdued, like the twinkling of distant stars. The effect is calming rather than stimulating. Each glint appears and disappears in response to tiny changes in angle and perspective, creating a shifting constellation of light beneath your feet. When deep crevasses open in glacier surfaces, they reveal vertical walls of layered ice bands of whiteness, alternating with deeper blues, each stratum marking seasons of snow. These openings are not wounds, but archives vertical histories of winter and sunlight, compressed into frozen stratigraphy. Looking into them is like reading chapters of a silent book, a frozen narrative of atmosphere and snowfall. They remind us that glaciers are not simply objects, they are accumulations of time. And perhaps most calming of all is the realization that glaciers are not static, frozen monuments, they are flowing entities. They move slowly, breathe subtly, melt and reform, grow and diminish in long rhythms. Their motion is nearly imperceptible, a shift measured not by moments, but by eras. This living slowness offers comfort, a reminder that change does not always require speed. Sometimes, the most enduring transformations happen with quiet patience. And now, as our quiet journey among the glaciers comes to a close, allow your breath to remain easy and your mind as soft as snow, settling on ice. These frozen landscapes have carried us through deep stillness places where time moves slowly, where sound fades gently, where ancient ice remembers the shape of forgotten winters. If some part of you now feels quieter, more grounded, more at peace, that is the glacier's gift. Remember that calm is something you can return to at any time, the way a glacier returns to stillness after movement. You do not need to hold on to anything or solve anything, simply rest. Let the quiet weight of deep time settle over your thoughts. And let sleep find you naturally, like meltwater finding the sea. Thank you for spending this time with the Sleepy Scientist tonight. If this journey brought you comfort, consider subscribing for more gentle explorations, more soft science, more peaceful wonder, more calming perspectives on the world and the universe beyond. Until next time, may your dreams be spacious, your rest be deep, and your sleep be as calm as ice under moonlight. Good night.